I'm very grateful I can speak to you today about Antonin and Noémi Raymond and their work that relates to the topic of this workshop. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you in Nagoya. I'm in Prague, which is, after all, Antonin Raymond's one of his main cities. So hopefully that's topical. I gave a lecture yesterday about the Raymond's work, and certainly the role of nature as an inspiration is something that I touched upon. But in this workshop that deals with the topic and the concept of Anthropocene, it is much more fitting to develop ideas that are related to much deeper motivations and commitments that the Raymonds, and here I need to emphasize that I want to talk not only about Antonin, but probably even mainly about his wife, Noémi Raymond, that was his lifelong partner, collaborator, designer, and their collaborations and their commitments to religions and different spiritualities that motivated them to consider nature and the living sphere in relations to their work and to themselves. And I will focus and tell you a story, hopefully briefly. I think we are a little bit behind, of the project that is very kind of stands out in the oeuvre of the Raymonds, that is absolutely enormous. And that is the building of the Golconda in Pondicherry, India, that they designed there, and their office and also the clients. Really, it's an amazing example of collaborative effort that was determined by a number yet quite specific commitments also to spirituality in the mid and later 1930s. So also it is a kind of a period for the Raymonds that we can label as high or mature. They already built a lot, experienced a lot, and went through also their own spiritual explorations. So I'll be showing you many images also of the drawings and other archival materials that will also illustrate, that is going to be my last point, also the amazing amount of care and how much the building itself matters to the community in Pondicherry, to the ashram still today. It is really understood as an organism, as an envelope for their spiritual practice that needs to be cared for on a daily basis. The ashram members also see the building as somewhat representational of their spiritual leaders. It's indeed a very special and particular place. I was lucky to visit it many times. This is again the building. I will talk about it, of course, more, but here you can appreciate its architectural form. It is a concrete building which has two of its facades adjustable, transmutable, fitting for the climate to make it incredibly pleasant. Even if you visited Pondicherry, it is rather a hot and humid place indeed. But let's talk about it a bit later. So now, who were the clients and who drove this project? And it is the couple of people that we are looking at here. And these are the leaders of the still existent and rather prosperous community of Sri Aurobindo Ashram in India, I should say, because although the headquarters is in Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo practice, which is known as integral yoga, and his yes, it's international in a way even, but definitely across India initiative that you will find in many places, including Delhi. And even more prominent here in our story is Sri Aurobindo's partner and eventual or later leader of the community, and that was Mira Alfasa, who is known more, I think, as the mother of Pondicherry somehow. And as you can tell, I can talk about this extensively. But what again is important for us here is the image on the left, which shows Mira Richard. At this point, she was married to Paul Richard, and both of them were not only interested in kind of spiritual seeking, also very excited having an opportunity to go and to travel from France to India, and also, as illustrated here, to Japan. They spent 4 years pretty much during the First World War in Japan, being engaged in a kind of nationalistic, ambitious circles, also of people practicing alternative practices. Here, actually, we are looking at the two women practicing kind of breathing exercises called Seizaho. Again, I can talk about it later. But yes, Mira, who by training was an artist before she totally devoted herself to, maybe I could say, occult study. She was incredibly inspired and impressed by Japanese traditional arts, aesthetics, and she reformulated her experiences into her writing and teaching later in Pondicherry, seeing Japanese art of living as a great manifestation of beauty, something to be aspired to. And this experience also then determined to some extent, but not only, the choice of the architects for the building project that she devised, and also its aesthetic and qualities. Okay, so these are the clients. Now, this photograph is fascinating for those of us who study new religions in Japan in the 1920s. But what is important for us here, that hopefully you can see my pointer. This is the Raymonds, this is Antonin and Noémi, and they are surrounded by a bunch of fascinating international bunch of people whose commonality here is that all of them, there are some Japanese, so not the Japanese, but the non-Japanese people. They came to Tokyo here because they were driven to find some sort of higher inspiration, lifestyle, maybe practice like-minded people, guru, leaders, teachers, etc. Now, what is quite important also here is that many of them became members of Theosophical Society. Now, Theosophical Society at this point existed for quite a few decades. It was set up in 1875 in New York. But for Japanese situation, what also is not probably that well known is that the leading persons at this point were also the Suzuki Daisetsu and his wife Beatrice. And meeting Suzuki was very important for the Raymonds, although we are still researching this part, but we know as much. So this is one of the explorations that determined their lifestyle, especially Noémi's, whose everyday practice of walking in nature, meeting, gathering animals, meeting anybody pretty much became her modus operandi. She was also committed vegetarian. She was animal rights activist and many other things that all relates to her spiritual explorations in Theosophical Society. It was Noémi who was a member, Antonín wasn't. But I should also say that it is not, this is only one facet. I mentioned it yesterday in my lecture also, that the couple was also interested in the kind of modernization of the Catholic faith and the architectural space created for it. They were very close to Paul Claudel. So Claudel would be definitely another important thinker and spiritual leader that the couple would respond to as they would to, as I mentioned, Suzuki. But it is also this group that is relevant for the project of the Golconde, because the bearded guy in the middle, Philippe Barbier Saint-Hilaire, is the key connecting link that suggested to the mother of Pondicherry, Mira Alfassa, that it is the Raymonds who are the best architects for the space, for the spiritual envelope of the Golconde that she wanted to build. Now I'm to watch time, I think. I have some archival material to demonstrate the Theosophical Society activity in Japan, but again, if you are interested. And this photograph shows Philippe Barbier Saint-Hilaire, later known as Pavitra. He became a very, well, the core member of the ashram when he decided to leave Japan behind, and being driven by the writing of Sri Aurobindo and the whole community and its lifestyle. But before he did that, he a part of his spiritual seeking practice, he worked in Japan as chemist. This was his training for a gentleman some of you may recognize. It's this guy, Hajime, Hoshi Hajime. By the way, another important client of the Raymonds, but that's an entirely different story. Maybe I should introduce Raymonds briefly, although I bet many of you in the audience know them very well. So here they are. It is very important to note that although Noémi Raymond for a long time was looked at the kind of partner wife, it was her work and her contacts that really established their collaborations when she married, or they married, the Raymonds did, back in the States, in New York. And she was at this point already quite established, or very quickly she managed to establish herself as designer. This is her work in the slide. Another important factor here that again is very well known, but it is definitely in working here, is the couple's close encounter collaboration with Frank Lloyd Wright and his ideas that we collectively call the ideas around organic architecture. But this way of thinking about architecture, designing and making had a huge impact on both Raymonds. But again, this is something that we all know, but it is definitely in resonance with the other factors that I already mentioned to you, so it's worth noting. And in the 20s, the couple and their company are building projects that manifest their interest in not only being incredibly modern, contemporary, international. They were definitely very keen on that. Again, this is related to their way of thinking and spiritual seeking, being part of this kind of international network. After all, also at the core of Theosophical Society is creation of universal brotherhood, this kind of interconnectedness. And again, it's not only humans, it's the living sphere, breathing, organic sphere. But at the same time, definitely being connected with the local Japanese artistic inspiration was important to them. I think we can see that in this project, which is an example of their kind of work with concrete, yet, yes, as I said, grounded in other artistic commitments. Another avenue of their creativity was inspired and determined by also climate of Japanese countryside, number of locations, but probably the most populated place by Antonin Raymond wooden architecture is Karuizawa, the mountainous resort in Huma Prefecture, we all probably heard about. And here the couple is experimenting with the wooden structure, again, being inspired by Japanese traditional carpentry building. Also, ideas of economy recycling and other things, but maybe this is for a different lecture. So moving on, showing the interiors that were mainly domain of Noémi Raymond and her team. She always had a small team at hand with whom the people she would be designing the interior in terms of fabrics and well, as a whole. And again, we can appreciate, I think, where she's coming from in terms of inspirations. But this is, I kind of showed you what they were doing in the 20s, also going into 30s, and from the late 20s onwards, the 1930s mainly, the first half before the couple has to leave Japan, their collective, as you can see, becomes almost entirely Japanese. They surround themselves by incredible Japanese architects, designers, and by the way, this ensures the lasting history, well, the long history, the history that lasts until today of the company Raymond office. If they haven't done this, I would argue the company would be long gone, as many other foreign-led or foreigners-led companies in Japan of the time. Yes, but back to the gold cone and how did the project actually happened and who was driving it. So it was at the very early 1930s where in the correspondence between Noémi Raymond and Pavitra that I mentioned, the French occultist Philippe Barbier Saint-Hilaire, they start, they have the correspondence is very rich in French. And Philippe starts telling Noémi that there is a need for new building the ashram still, and then as well was using a colonial sort of central Pondicherry port buildings, number of buildings. But yes, the community was growing, and also the mother wanted to create a specific space for contemplation and also living. Yet, and that's quite important, the Golkon is primarily, as I said, even its name is coming from the very famous diamond mine in India, and the idea was to create this kind of cluster of crystals, so to speak, for the disciples to hide in and to kind of enshrine themselves in the practice. So definitely a kind of quiet, peaceful, harmonious environment was in need. Yet other parts of the lifestyle, meaning the dining, the congregation, collective exercise, for example, that the ashram members do. These activities are undertaken elsewhere. Yeah, so the Golkon, I will show the plant, is primarily a place to live and to practice, and also to sleep, of course, too. This is why it is called sometimes dormitory. It's a kind of, but it's not the best term, really. That doesn't mean that the building doesn't have collective spaces. It does. Again, maybe I will show it to you when we look at the plans and other images. Yes, this was the idea of the early 30s. It came to the Raymond through Noémi, and they accepted. I have some. Yeah, they accepted the commission, the job in the mid 1930s, and we have lots of correspondence in a number of archives. What the Raymond did, they firstly sent one of the members of the office to kind of observe the situation, to prepare the terrain, to start the logistics, because some of the material, at least at the initial stage of the building, was actually imported from Japan. So to set it all up was architect George Nakashima. Now, Nakashima George is a fascinating figure of modernism, of modern architecture history. I'm sure many of you heard about him, but mainly probably as a furniture designer. This is the career shift that he actually undertook, also inspired by being in Pondicherry and actually becoming a national member. You can see here he adopted the name Sundar Ananda, and he was greatly influenced by especially direct contact with Mira Alfassa, the mother. This is also what I've just described to you is the reason why sometimes Nakashima is credited with the design of the Golkon, which is quite unfortunate, because I would like us to really see this building as I already mentioned, as a creation of amazing collective of people and their ideas and their interdisciplinarity and transnationality, really. So I don't think we can say the Golkon has one author, and there are a few contenders. You can see it in literature sometimes. So yeah, the Golkon, the building, the construction started. It was a very long process. Not only that, the office went to the trouble to create also the model room. There was lots of testing in terms of material and technology to make sure again that the building works perfectly. And then what happened was that the ashram, and here the figure of Sri Aurobindo comes to play, finds that the building is just too disruptive to their contemplative lifestyle, and they decide that they will not use contractors, but they will build it themselves, which really happened. And it made the process of the building incredibly long. And we actually kind of, again, there is a not actually consensus when the construction actually ended, but it is definitely sometime around the end of Second World War. So lengthy, but incredibly conscientious process that was. So I'm a bit wary of time, so I will we will go through images you can appreciate. Noémi Raymond. Okay, so then when we are hitting 1938, the Raymonds have to leave Japan, and what they decide to do is to take the route back, kind of traveling across the world, really. And they spend a few months in India, in Pondicherry, and they are very hands-on in the project. Again, not surprisingly, Noémi Raymond is in charge of the interior. There is a typical furniture developed for the cells, and it is not only Noémi's design, but when she visits, she developed a very special varnish by testing, experimenting, that actually we cannot, I interviewed the current maintenance team, we cannot exactly replicate. So again, there is lots of testing now in how to keep the furniture protected and beautiful. Again, beauty very important when it comes to Golconda. Yes, another fascinating character, also member of Raymond office, was František Samer. For him, as for Nakashima, the experience of the Golconda was incredibly important. He came from Le Corbusier, the kind of modernist exposed concrete, as you can see on the right, aesthetic was installed in him. But again, this kind of exposing the material, including the concrete parts, its marks, imperfections, and perfections, was something that he was encouraged to do. It was actually the mother who insisted that this is the kind of quality of Japanese aesthetics that the building will have. Yes, I think here again we are fortunate to have the drawings and the documentation in its full. So here what you can see, however, is that maybe it's good in comparison. I have definitely other floors like so. So on the 3 stories of the Golconda, we have the standardized cells, but on the top floor we have something called atelier, or there is a potential to expand the cell and it was atelier for artistic creativity. So the mother also had in mind that perhaps some of the inhabitants will be creatives and they will need a little bit more space than just a standardized cell for integral yoga practice. And it was factored in design. Also, these ateliers were used as exhibition spaces. There was a number of exhibitions taken place in the Golconda over the years. These are some images from the communal space and the garden that is around Golconda. It's not a big garden. There is the plot and the building fit quite well. We see the surrounding wall is pretty near of the building. Still, there is a greenery space that is a part of the design of the project, and it has a very strong, even some Japanese elements, as you can see in overall. It definitely communicates the Japanese aesthetic commitments that the mother wanted. Here also, the community of the Golconda convenes with the outsiders during the regular afternoon tea at 5, which is a very nice event. Okay, and I'm almost at the end. So what fascinated me about the project is, or has been, this amazing program of care, of maintenance. This is the holy grail of it. It's the green notebook, Household Affairs, where you can, it's updated, it's still being used, and you can see how the collective, now a little bit smaller, the community of the ashram, although it's still present, active, is less numerous than it was. So also the maintenance team is not as developed, but it's still there, and it's maintains the building on a regular basis. In the book, you find the activities for for every day, for you can see it's in the bookmarks here, even the monthly activities, products are listed, etc. It's rather incredible. And my last slides show you the recent, it's not 10 years ago, major restoration project of the wooden elements. It's the furniture, and also the sliding doors to each cell. You can have a look at it here. Yes, this is the last slide. What is rather fascinating, I interviewed the ashram member who voluntarily started and led this project of the beautiful, as you can appreciate, restoration of all these wooden parts. And this is really a great example of the commitment and the calling and the feeling that the community has towards this organism of an architecture, and the way they conducted, because this was all done, as I said, on voluntary basis, on experimenting, seeking suitable people actually within the ashram and related communities, and being incredibly resourceful, careful, and also kind of giving it time, because in the ashram and in the Golkon, what matters is this kind of deep care and commitment that brings some sort of perfection to, again, the maintenance of it. So yes, as far as I know, it took a very many years to do, but the result is rather amazing. So yes, I think that is all from me. Thank you for your attention.